Parshas, Beshalach-Shira. That's it, Shabbos-Shira already. Believe it or not. Tafshin Ayin Daled. Pasuk says, Vayomer Hashem el Moshe. Hashem said to Moshe Rabbeinu, Ma titzak Eloi. Why are you crying out to me? Dabero b'nei Yisrael. Speak to b'nei Yisrael v'yiso. Tell them to go. Why are you crying out? I mean, they're coming to the Yam Suf, and obviously the Mitzrim are chasing them, and there's water in front of them, right? And they're crying out. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe, why? What's this crying out business now? Dabero b'nei Yisrael. Tell the Yidden v'yiso. Tell them just to go. So Nesivos Shalom asks the obvious kasha that is asked by many of the Mefarshim over here. What does the pasuk mean by Ma titzak Eloi? What else does a Yid who's in a situation like the Bnei Yisrael were in at that moment, where you have the Mitzrim behind you, you have a Yam Suf in front of you, what else would you do but cry out to Hashem? So what does the pasuk mean, Ma titzak Eloi? Why are you crying out? It should be quite obvious why they're crying out, and we also know that's what a Yid does. Min ha-meitzar karasika. When a person is in a moment of distress, or in a time of distress, or you're in a situation that you don't know what to do, and you don't have the eights of what to do, you cry out to Hashem. So what did Hashem mean by this question, why are you crying out to me? And besides that, wasn't the Aschalta de Geula, the beginning of the Geula, we know, in Parshas Shemois, at the beginning, what does it say? Vanitzak el Hashem Elokei Avosenu. That was the Aschalta de Geula. We spoke of in Nesivos Shalom, that is sometimes the beginning of the Geula has to be when you realize that you have to, who you're crying out to. Vanitzak el Hashem, they came to the realization, that was the Aschalta de Geula. So if the whole Nes came about that way, and Klal Yisrael saw that, and they knew that the Nes came about that way, why over here should be any different? So the Orach Chaim HaKadosh says over here, that we know that at this point, when they came to the Yam Suf, there was a kitrug of halalu v'halalu oivdei avodah zarah, and we know what that means. The malachim in Shemayim were wondering what the justification would be over here that the Mitzrim should die in the Yam Suf. Oh, so you're going to tell me that the Mitzrim were oivdei avodah zarah? So is Klal Yisrael for all the years of Mitzrayim. Halalu v'halalu oivdei avodah zarah. And there was that kitrug in Shemayim. And zot the Orach Chaim HaKadosh that the koyach of Rachamim alone over here was not going to be enough to save Bnei Yisrael, because the stark taina. They're on both sides. You have oivdei avodah zarah. Why the Mitzrim going to go down and the Yidden and the Klal Yisrael is going to be saved? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling Moshe Rabbeinu over here that if Klal Yisrael is going to be saved here at the Yam Suf, if Klal Yisrael is going to be the ones to be saved, then crying out is not going to be enough over here. You're going to need something more. Crying out is not going to be enough to break the Midas Hadin. If there's going to be a nace for Klal Yisrael at this time, then Dabero b'nei Yisrael, you're going to need more than just crying out v'yiso. They're going to have to go. And what does that mean? That means pick yourself up in your emunah. Don't just sit there and cry out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Pick yourself up in your emunah, in your belief in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to save you. So, and just go. And how do you show that? You show it by heading straight for the Yam Suf, even before the Yam Suf splits. That's how you show it. Dabero b'nei Yisrael v'yiso. That we know, we're showing that we rely totally on HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and with that koyach of emunah and betochen, then you could be miskaber the koyach harachamim, and you'll be zoichet to kriyas Yam Suf. If you show that you're putting your belief totally in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Nesivos Shalom says that there are times that tefillos, people we daven, we need things, we ask for things, we have troubles. There are times that the tefillos are held back from doing what they have to, from accomplishing what they need to do in Shemayim. There are times that the tefillos just can't do it. They can't overcome the situation. The pasuk says in Tehillim, Elikim Ekra Yoimam V'lo yisan. That we're calling out to Kadosh Baruch Hu and we're not answered. V'lo dumiali. That's a pasuk in Tehillim. That sometimes we cry out and sometimes we daven and sometimes we ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu things, but the tefillos are not enough. They're a good start, but they're not enough yet. But says in the Nesivos Shalom, there is one koyach that nothing could stand in front of. And what is that? That's higher than even tefillah. That is the koyach of bitachon. When a yid believes that no matter where I stand right now, and no matter what I've done, and no matter how good or, quote, bad I've been, that no matter where I am, my position in life, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to have mercy on me, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to save me like a father to his son. And that is the koyach of bitachon. The Medrash says, on the pasuk, there's a pasuk in Tehillim, the pasuk says, Elokai b'cho batachti alei v'isha. He says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I put my belief in you, I believe in you, alei v'isha. Don't let me down, so to speak. The Medrash says that there was once a person who came to the city of a king, and he decided that he was looking for a good place to rest and a good place to sleep. So he found the royal property, and he went to sleep. He put himself out there on the royal property, and he went to sleep. Now, as we know, there's security on the royal property, right? So the security of the king comes, and they find this person on the royal property, and obviously a person can't be there. So they ask the person, okay, what are you doing here? So he says, what do you mean? I'm from the royal family. I mean, I have rights over here. I'm from the royal family. They look at him. They don't know who he is, but they say, listen, if he says he's from the royal family, maybe not everybody was cleared for security. Maybe we just don't know who this guy is. So they take him and they bring him to the king. And the king, it's obvious to them when they walk in, the king looks at this guy that he never saw him before. So the king asks the person, do I know you? Do you know me? He says, no. He says to the king, I don't know you. So why are you staying on my property? Why are you sleeping on the royal property? And why did you tell the guards that picked you up and wanted to punish you, why did you tell them that you're from the family? So he answered like this. The person answers the king back like this. He says, listen, I know that we're not related. I know I'm not from your family, and you know I'm not from your family. He says, but one thing I did know. I knew that if I told the guards that I am from your family, I could rely on your kindness that you're going to take care of me. If I say I'm from your family, at least for sure they're going to take me to you, and I could rely on you that you're going to have mercy on me. So the king said, you know what? If he totally relied on me, and there was no other way out, if he totally relied on me, then we have to let him go. Zogt in Nesivos Shalom that is exactly what David HaMelech is saying in this pasuk. Elokai b'cho batachti. You may not consider me right now part of your family. Maybe I wasn't so good. Maybe I'm not so close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But b'cho batachti, I rely on you totally. Alei v'isha. You can't let me down because I don't trust in anybody else. I have no other hope. I'm relying on you totally. I only trust in you. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling Moshe Rabbeinu here in our pasuk that yes, I know that you cried out in Mitzrayim, and I know the Vanitzak al Hashem Elokei Aviseinu. I know that you had the geula that started with crying out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But let me tell you why the geula came. It's a good start, but the geula came because you trusted that I promised. HaKadosh Baruch Hu saying that I promised Avraham Avinu Ba'acharei Kain Yetzu B'Chush Gadol. I promised that they're going to go out. And that you put your trust in me, that you trusted that I'm going to keep my promise to Avraham Avinu, that is why the Geula came about. But for Kriyas Yamsuf, there was no Haftacha. There was a Haftacha to Avraham Avinu about leaving Mitzrayim. But for Kriyas Yamsuf, there was no such Haftacha. So that is going to have to come through your koyach. That's going to have to come through that. That only if you show your bitachon, and that's why he said, Daber b'nei Yisrael, you're going to have to do something more. So you can't just cry out. You can't just daven. You have to do something by yourself. You're going to have to go. You're going to have to head straight for the Yamsuf. So Dr. Nesivos Shalom, that the Torah, which is Nitzchias, The Torah is teaching us a lesson in life here. A lesson from this pasuk. The Torah is telling us that there is always a way with koyach habitachon. The bitachon, the more bitachon you have, and this koyach habitachon, there's always going to be a way with bitachon. Even in a time like we said in the pasuk, Elikai ekra yoimam v'loy sana v'layla v'loy dumili. Even if you're in a matzav of that pasuk, where you're calling out HaKadosh Baruch Hu and you're not going to get answered, still nothing can stand in the way of bitachon. But we have to know that many times, not just bitachon in your mind, it requires a proactive bitachon of daber b'nei Yisrael v'yiso. Show HaKadosh Baruch Hu, do you trust in Him. You say, oh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we like to think, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we trust in you, parnasa. No, go ahead, do something. Show that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this is the way you're leading my life. This is the way you want me to go, but so I'm going to do something proactive. I'm going to show HaKadosh Baruch Hu that I trusted Him. You're so confident that you're going to walk straight to the Yam Suf before it even splits. Avad, you need tefillah, but you need tefillah and action. Klal Yisrael at that point needed a nes me'al derech hateva. They needed a nes which was more than the higher than a regular derech hateva. So they needed the higher nes you need, the more you need to step outside of derech hateva, the more the higher level of bitachon that you have to have. And that's what we have to show HaKadosh Baruch Hu in our lives, says in Nesivos Shalom. That it wasn't just a lesson at that moment because they were scared, Mitzrayim behind them, Yamsuf in front of them. Every moment, every day in our lives is really, HaKadosh Baruch Hu with chesed covers it over, that we don't realize who's after us, what the dangers that we face. We're always between a rock and a hard place, so to speak. But that's what we have to show, proactive. We have to show our bitachon in every way that nothing's going to happen without HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that we have to trust in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And Nesivos Shalom says that we'll be able to be zoicha the same way Klal Yisrael was zoicha to be saved over there because they did what HaKadosh Baruch Hu said. They didn't just daven, but they also did. They actively showed their bitachon. Let's hope that we'll be zoicha, that in our galus will be zoicha to have taken Geula Shlema in the next year should Amir Tashem be from Yerushalayim Yer HaKodesh.